Hola, hola, hola. Welcome to episode 38 of Word to Your Mama. Today we have singer-songwriter, musician, Ceci Bastida. You might know her from the legendary group Tijuana No. You might know her from being with Julieta Venegas for a bunch of years, or you might know her from her own solo stuff. Today we have a fantastic convo. We get into how the pandemic has impacted her creativity, how she started her career at age 15 with the bandmates who were 15 years her senior, how that went down. It was another time, kids. It was another time. Also, how becoming a magical motherfucking warrior, aka mom, has changed her songwriting. How to get in and out of that zone that us creatives know that it's very hard to do. Also, we talk about her latest single that is out now called Corre, and it features Palestinian rapper Tamer Nafar. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. It's fantastic. I'm going to have a link to all that. Also, throughout the conversation, we talk about Josh. Josh is her husband, Josh Kuhn. And sorry, Josh, I kept saying Joshua here and there. He's a professor of communication journalism chair in cross-cultural communications at Annenberg School at the University of Southern California. And then when we talk about Julieta, when she mentions Julieta, she's talking about her best friend, fellow musician, singer, songwriter, Julieta Venegas. So yeah, let's get into this.
Doing like camp at her school.
Oh, nice.
Like summer camp. And so that's helpful because like during the online, school stuff, it's just like you couldn't do anything.
Yeah. So that's how I want to start. How has your life been during the ever evolving, realities of the pandemic? I mean, we're like over a year now. So like how has it been for you?
Well, it's been hard, but at the same time, it's difficult for me to say that because I know in a lot of ways we're very fortunate. We have a home, we have food, all that stuff. We're not forced to leave our house to go to work.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a blessing. And I'm very grateful for it. But if I want to be complaining, the online school.
Struggle is struggle.
Yeah. The online school was tough. We ended up getting a rhythm, but at the same time, there's like arguing, like, come on, let's do this work, let's do math, So that sort of thing kind of very much took over my life and Josh's too, but definitely mine more because his job is more stable. Yeah. And mine, every musician I know is pretty much unemployed. So, yeah, I know, so it ended up falling, a lot of it fell on me. And so, yeah, it's something that forced me to sort of put pause on what I was working on, which is a record that in my head, I thought I was going to release in 2020. And clearly that didn't happen. And so I think it was more than anything was changing my brain a little bit, kind of like understanding that it was going to be a different year. Mm-hmm. And then for whatever reason, my focus had to be our daughter, and understanding it and making peace with it was what made me be okay with it. Yeah. There were moments where I was just like, oh my God, I should be like writing music, or I should be, but I was trying to give myself a break, and it's hard to do it, to do everything.
It is.
So yeah, that was it.
And so you're in a different space, and in a little bit, we'll definitely talk about like your latest project and stuff. So I wanted to start off just because we know each other. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen you forever, and I'm excited to hopefully see you when, shit is safe and shit. But I was trying to think, I know I met you through Josh, but I don't remember like the first time.
Yeah, I don't remember either. It was a long, long time ago. Mm-hmm. I don't remember exactly how we met, but we used to see each other a little bit more,
Yeah.
And yeah. I mean, obviously now with the pandemic, we're not going anywhere, but at least we would sort of like see each other at events or whatever. We had friends in common and that sort of thing. Yeah. And, but that was like, I mean, I didn't even have Yami before. Like it was like easily
pre-kids. We were not moms at all.
Exactly. So yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was remembering like I, had met Josh and then later on like lost touch and then later on met him again with Jen. And then I remember we went to LAMC in New York. I went with my homegirl Karen. And then you had a showcase and we were at your showcase. And then I don't know if you remember, we went to Diplo was playing at the Apple Store. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes. God, that was a long time ago.
That was a long ass time ago. That was so much fun. And so I know you ended up working with him, but when we went that time, he wasn't that big. Did you know him at that time?
It's funny because I've never met him personally.
Oh.
So no, I knew of him. And then what happened was that my manager at the time shared an office with his manager. And they were friends, the managers. And so I had mentioned that I was sort of a fan of his, and I mentioned it to his manager. And so we were just talking about a track, and he sent over basically a beat, and we sort of wrote the song around it. So there was never we were never in the same room, and for whatever reason, we ended up just not meeting. And then he got really big. This was back in 2009, 2010. He was starting to do well, but he wasn't like who he is now.
Yeah.
And so later on, he became so big that it was just like, it wasn't going to happen. It was fine. I don't need to meet him.
Yeah.
It worked out okay.
Yeah. Cause I was thinking of back in the days when we did pre-mom shit. And I was like, oh yeah, that was so much fun. Cause I had pictures. I remember especially because Karen at the time, she was a huge Diplo fan. Like I was a fan, but she was like crazy. And we're just like, this is amazing. We're in this like transparent box. Remember like the Apple Store in New York was like this cube. And we're like having a dance party at the Apple Store. This is amazing. And then I was like, oh, but she ended up working. I was like, I'm going to ask her if you guys had met up. So let's start a little bit for the beginning. I did an intro. People know a lot about you or like the origins of you a little bit, like your titles and your history a little bit. But I wanted to, I find it so interesting when I get to talk to friends in this format, because I get to learn shit that we would never, if we're just sitting, chilling, breaking bread, this would probably never come out, or these types of questions or insights. So you started at 15?
Yeah.
So how did that go down? Like who brought you in? Who was the mastermind? How did that all happen?
So I lived in an area in Tijuana called Playas, which is close to the beach. And it was a very small community, or like a very small neighborhood back when I was a kid. So families pretty much knew each other, not all of them, but I lived a block away from the drummer of Tijuana No, and his parents and my parents knew each other. So this guy, Alex is his name, he knew that I played piano, and he was starting this band, and I was walking to school or something, and he saw me and he stopped me, and he's like, hey, we're getting together to just like play around. Do you want to come? I know you play piano. Do you have a keyboard? And I had like this really sort of cheap Casio keyboard that, I used to get like a Casio keyboard for Christmas. So I brought the biggest one I had, and we just used it, and we just started rehearsing in the summer, during that summer break. And so that's kind of how it started. But the funny thing is that nobody ever thought, we never said out loud, we're going to make a band and plan is to do shows. It was just like hanging out. And to me, and these guys were much older than I was, or most of them were much older than I was. But to me, it was just like, I felt, as a teenager, I felt like I found a bunch of people that I connected with, that I had things in common with, which wasn't really happening as much at school. Like I felt like the girls at school were kind of interested in other things. And I got along with some guys and stuff, but when I met them, I just felt like, oh, okay. So this is, what it feels like to be, finding your people.
Yeah. And then you just started performing locally, and then.
Yeah. So we started there were like a ton of people like coming in and out of the band. It was just like anybody who wanted to play would come over and just like rehearse and jam and whatever. And, and we started writing songs, and some of them were like really bad. but it was like really bad. And, but it was just fun. And then I don't know how somebody heard our music and was like, let's do a show in Mexicali, which was like 2.5 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
And we started playing at this bar. There was like this little bar, and it got packed, and it was really funny. So we just started touring in Mexicali and doing shows in Tijuana, Mexicali, and Ensenada. And that was like our circuit. And I don't know, like, I was so young that to me it was just fun. But again, I never thought my plan is to make an album and like hopefully tour like that. Those words never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
And even as we were doing it, it was still like, oh, this is fun. But I had no future plans really. Like I just didn't know.
And what about your parents? Were they supportive, or were they like, what's happening here?
They were actually supportive. It was funny because they were supportive. At first, they were obviously had questions because, like I said, some of the guys were much old. One of them was 15 years older than I was. So when you're 15, you hang out with a 30-year-old. It just feels weird. Yeah. But he was very charming, and he immediately kind of made friends with my parents. Like he was just like, don't worry, it's all good. We're taking care of her. And he kind of took that role like really seriously, even though sometimes he was just like an idiot, like with his behavior and stuff. But he would say stuff like, I'm supposed to take care of you. And I was like, okay. So I think that helped. And, and when we were doing those first shows or tours, I would go with my mom. And she would drive me to Mexicali. I would stay at an aunt's house. So it's like very sort of controlled in a lot of ways. So honestly, I don't know. And I asked her the other day, like, how did you end up like allowing this to happen? And she was like, I don't know. I just sort of trusted that everything was going to be okay. And talking to Julieta, the other day also, asking her about her time with us, because we invited her to play for a little while. She is like, I always got annoyed that you got permission to play. And for me, it was a big deal. Like I had to ask my parents like multiple times and assure them there was no alcohol and there wasn't this, So yeah, I don't know how they felt. I don't know. I guess people just thought that things were more chill back then.
It was a different time for sure. Could you imagine your daughter?
I don't know.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
I don't know. I mean, the only difference right now that I think would be sort of a benefit is that at least you they have their cell phone or whatever. Yeah. They can you can sort of be in contact with them constantly. I would go to Mexico City and would have to find a payphone and call my parents and just say, everything's going well. Yeah. So I feel like that's more nerve-wracking than knowing that your kid has a phone that you can just text them, whenever. But yeah, that's kind of how it happened. And I'm grateful to them because my parents, my dad is very traditional in a lot of ways, very conservative in a lot of ways. So the fact that he allowed me to do this was kind of amazing. Once I started thinking about it, it was like pretty great.
Yeah. Because it was another time being Mexican alone. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot. That's why I was very, very interested in hearing that. So did you guys ever travel? Did you ever travel solo with them outside of Mexico? And how was that for you being
outside of Mexico? It was, that happened a little bit later. So I was probably closer to 17. So I felt, or maybe they felt too, that I was a little bit older.
Yeah.
And so when we left Mexico and like we went to Spain a few times, they were kind of okay with it. It's funny, but they were like, if I think about it, it just seems so weird. But yes, they were okay with it. And in the end, I still was doing well at school, which was for my parents, it was like one of the most important things.
Yeah.
To be able to, because in their head, it was just like, you can do this, but you're going to study something, you're going to go to school.
Yeah.
And so high school, I did very well. And then after high school, I didn't know what I wanted to study because I didn't know. And so I continued to play, and I think they were okay with it. But once I told my dad, I'm going to go to the university, I'm going to study history. He was like, okay, it's not like architecture or you're not going to be a doctor.
Doctor, lawyer.
Yeah. But at least there's something. So I think that gave him peace. And then somehow I guess they just got used to it because it's been like, God knows how long.
That's awesome. So, I also wanted to talk about the fact that, we're mothers, both of us are mothers now, but it does not define us, but it is a part of us.
Yeah.
I remember we got our tattoos. Shout out to Shizu. We got our tattoos together at the same day, same time. How has that, because you're a creative person, and I feel like being a creative person, we all need that outlet. It's part of how we live and breathe. We need it. Right. We don't get it. It totally affects us mentally, physically, all that stuff. And you and I've had it back in the days, because I remember, I don't know if I think Julieta maybe already had her like a child or was already a mom before you.
Yes. She was a mom like a year and 4 months before me.
So you had that glimpse, like, someone really close to you that went through it. You guys are really close and you saw that. Like, I had no idea. Right. And I remember, no one told me all this shit that was happening. And I remember you and Joshua were so amazing. And you guys came over and I was like in a daze, because I think I was just like, it was a couple of months.
Yeah.
And you guys were like just breaking it down to me and telling me some real shit that I needed to hear so that I wouldn't feel like a bad person as a mom, as a new mom. And I thanked you then. I want to thank you again now, because I'm looking back and I was like, yeah, okay. I'm not fucking crazy. Like, this is some real things that go through your head. And I remember Joshua's like, I think he texted me. Oh, and then also you guys like let me borrow the swing.
Yes.
for the little man, because he couldn't sleep in a regular bed. He had to sleep in the swing. So that was like life-saving shit. Yeah. And then I remember Joshua was like, I think he texted me when I was in the 3-month mark, and he was just like, sleep deprivation is torture. It's forms of torture. He said that you guys call it the Guantanamo phase. And I was like, I'm in that fucking phase and no one told me that this shit fucking sucks. And then I think you and I had a conversation. It's like, how do you, for me, I was devastated. I was like, it's like a whole new job, a whole new thing that it swallowed me whole. This motherhood shit. How did you reconcile that? How did you navigate that with your creativity? Maybe in the beginning, then when it was brand new, and now that you're, years into it.
In the beginning, it was hard, because like I think that nobody really knows as much as somebody might tell you, which is great because knowing a little bit is better than nothing.
Yeah.
But the experience itself, it's yours and yours alone. Like it could be a very different experience for you than mine. So with our daughter, it was just I remember feeling at one point frustrated, and I realized later on that I had like baby blues.
Yeah.
Which I didn't, at the time I wasn't really ready to admit. Totally. And I remember I was talking to my daughter's pediatrician, and she's like, how are you doing? I was like, it's hard. And then she gave me a card for a therapist. And I was like, what? Like, so I got kind of offended because I was like, okay, she doesn't understand, like she's crazy. But then like, as like a year passed and I kind of like remembered everything, I realized that, maybe I was going through something. It wasn't like, what do you call it? Postpartum depression, like necessarily, a strong one, but there was some of it for sure. And I remember talking to my mom at one point, I was like, saying like, I just can't believe that this is, that this is my life. And it's horrible. It sounds, but she was like, why would you want something other than this for now? Like why would something else be more important than keeping this child alive, basically? And I was like, oh, okay, I guess. So that made me sort of kind of refocus. And so in terms of creativity, I didn't do that much in the beginning. I was so tired. And it also didn't help that Yami she had a colic and, acid reflux for like months. So my sleep was like almost non-existent for like a good year. So, and it is torture. So that first year was just like impossible. Like I couldn't physically do anything. And later on, once she started getting better and she started sleeping through the night, then you start, your soul comes back to you a little bit, like you become yourself again.
Yeah.
And then you figure out a rhythm, it takes a lot of logistics, like, okay, once you sleep, but at the same time, I'm also very fortunate to have a partner that is so present and, basically equal and taking care of, when I was taking care of some things, he was taking care of the others. So it was just like a great team that we created. So I know not everybody has that, but I am happy that I had that support system, and so that helped me kind of go through it in a more sort of at peace way.
Yeah. Because even with having amazing partners and not doing it solo and being equals, it still fucking sucked. And so I was just like I have so much respect to those who are not fortunate, who are in different situations. And I'm just like, I don't understand it. So now, are you I know it's always evolving. You always, there's so many different factors. Like you said, as a musician, it's not a steady thing. Now, is it easier to get into creative zone now that she's older and now that, it's been years later, or is it still an ever changing type of situation?
I think it's definitely better. It's definitely better because now I understand. I mean, especially prior to the pandemic, I understood her schedule, and I knew that, and I'm a morning person anyway, so I work better in the mornings. So I know that once she's at school, I have a certain amount of hours that I can dedicate to my work. And so it's easier. It's way easier. Mm-hmm. Before I was like trying to get work done while she was napping. It was just like impossible. Cause like, switching flipping the switch, for like an hour while she's sleeping and all of a sudden feeling very creative is hard. You can't, it's not that easy. So now with her being in school or when she was in school, it just became a lot more manageable, like a lot. So I was able to sort of focus more and allow myself also like that hour of not creating anything, but just trying to get around ideas. And do you know what I mean? Like trying to get into a rhythm or a flow of things. And not feel like, oh my God, I need to rush because, something needs to come out now because she's going to wake up.
Yeah. The anxiety. Totally. Hard to get in and out of the zone. When before, and for me, speaking for myself, I was like, man, I had a lot of time to just, that discovery time when it just kind of like bouncing things off of your, like you need that, and I just had a bunch of it. And it's just like, once you become a mom, it's like, okay, you need to learn how to get in and out or else you're fucked or else it's not going to happen. And then, like you said earlier, it's kind of releasing to the fact that this is what it is now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And just congratulate ourselves that we kept a little person alive for all this time. It's like, and also able to go in and out of creativity time and stuff like that. I mean, Ceci, I'm just here to remind you, we're amazing. We're
yes, we are. And
we're pretty dope.
I think about what you said too. Like, what was I doing with all the time I had before? Yeah, like I had a lot of time, and I wasn't as productive as I was. Now thinking about it, I could have been.
Yeah, totally. I thought the exact thing. I was like, man, I was up till 3-4 o'clock in the morning, just doing it, just whatever. And I could have done way more, but hindsight 2020, whatever. So before we go into the questions and comments from the audience, because I feel the questions that were sent in will really give a lot more insight to you. I wanted to talk about from jump. Have you always felt that you wanted your art to have a message? Or is that something you evolved into? Staying competitive in these dynamic times means having the right technology at work for your small or medium-sized business. Whether your goal is to grow, downsize, or modernize, Panoply BPO provides the right combination of tools, support, and affordability necessary to make it a reality. Visit panoplybpo.com. That's PANOPLYBPO.com to schedule your no obligation consultation today. Mention WTYM and get your 13th month of service for free. PanoplybPO.com. There is a better way.
I think I evolved into it because to me, when I first started music, I was playing piano and doing keyboards. I didn't have like any plans to sing. Like that wasn't something that I was thinking about, and it just kind of happened. And once it happened, I feel like what came out more naturally were songs that talked about issues that I cared about, that were not necessarily love songs, which are great, but they just wouldn't flow, and they still kind of don't. Like I'm better at like other things than a beautiful love song. And I'm always amazed when somebody writes a beautiful love song. I'm like, oh, how do you do it? I can't do it. Or I haven't been able to do it. It somehow just happened. And I think it also, being a part of a band that was so political from a young age, I feel like it sort of shaped me a little, more than I thought it would. And so I basically talk about issues that are not too different from the ones that we talked about back in whenever. But I just approach them in a different way. Like I sometimes I would not love that in my old band, it was so literal and it was so direct. And I appreciate it more now also, but back then I was just like, why does it have to be so like, fuck this and the government sucks, it was just too direct. And I wanted it to be different. So once I started writing on my own, I just felt like I still was talking about the same things or similar things, but just from a different point of view or a different voice.
Yeah. Because it was just for you. You're representing you only. So you had a different voice. So I think this is appropriate time. Let's get into your latest project. I had the honor of listening to the full track and also watching the video. And I have to say, and not just because I know you, because I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm like super honest. I can't fake the funk. It's really fucking good. And I want to know how this specific song, the project in general, your album in general, like you said, it was supposed to come out last year, but had this single that's coming out. By the time you guys are listening to this, it would already have been out. How did you start this project and the amazing collaboration that you have on this track?
So the song I started writing probably in 2019, and that's when I started talking with Tamer, who's my guest on the track. The idea behind the album that I still haven't finished fully, but I'm focused on finally, was around stories of migration, refugees and displacement. So they're all, again, they're not super direct. So I don't say like, asylum, but they're different stories from different points of views. And when I was writing this one, I was thinking about, do you remember the sort of caravan of Central Americans that were arriving?
Yeah. And
how it became such a big deal here in the US, but not just here, also Mexico, which is, a really, really tough journey to make. So I wanted to write about that from the point of view of a woman. And I knew that I wanted a collaborator. And I learned about Tamer's band, his old band, several years ago, and I thought they were great. And somehow I thought, how cool would it be to have him on the track? But I just felt kind of like a long shot. And randomly, Josh knew somebody that was good friends with him that sort of worked with him. And so he sent me his email, and I sent him the track, and he loved it. So he said yes. And I was like, oh my God, he said yes. So we just were going back and forth, like him sending me stuff, and like he was like, no, I don't like this. Let me try something else. It just took a while to get the right things that he wanted to say the way that he wanted to say them. Yeah. By the time I sent him the track, my part was done, basically.
And what year? That was in 2019?
It was in 2019, 2020. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so yeah, once we were both happy with what he had written, he recorded over there. He's Palestinian. I don't know if we didn't mention that.
No, no.
No, you didn't. And he lives in that part of the world. So he recorded on his own in the studio. He sent me the tracks and I just thought it sounded great. And so his verse talks about his reality and his experience with the border and with, dealing constantly with this, like, with Israel and the realities of living in the town that he lives in. He lives in Israeli territory, but he's a Palestinian. And so the stories were kind of similar in some ways. He talks about, for example, Palestinians who lived in Israeli territory not being able to see Palestinians in Gaza, for example, which is not too dissimilar from, Mexicans or even from other parts of the world being here and not being able to see people in their home country.
Yeah.
So I just thought it made sense, and we just connected and understand each other really well. And I think our ways of seeing the world are similar. And so it just kind of happened. So, yeah.
It works really well. The fact that it's out now, not that what has been happening on our borders and with them has been happening this has been ongoing for a long time. But the fact that I feel that with social media and everything like that, it's on people's consciousness. Like it's maybe more talked about in a way that I maybe never seen, in the past couple of years. So this is like super timely. And I feel like people are ready to hear this type of track, and this type of collaboration, I think, is amazing. And I can't wait for everyone to hear it. And I know, you've always been, like I said, kind of an activist in what you talk about and stuff. And I remember not being able to attend, but you did that, what was it? Adelanto Center. It was like Miguel and like some other people and stuff like that. How was that? Tell us a little bit more about that event, and because I think it was really important. And how was that experience for you?
So I do a lot of work with an organization called Revolve Impact that had this project called Schools Are Prisons. And I did a lot of shows with them throughout California a few years ago. Basically, a lot of the program focuses on formerly incarcerated people, but also people that have been in detention centers. And so they asked me to participate in this event that they were doing in Adelanto, California, demanding to close the detention center or prison because when you hear about everything that goes on there, it's insane. It's insane. So we did this show that happened in Adelanto. We went outside of the detention center and like gave a press thing. And then we did a show. And then what they did was really interesting because it was like in a little stadium and they put like a vending machine with the prices, of how they are inside the detention center. So like toothpaste would be like something like, I don't know, $10, something insane.
Yeah.
They also put like phone booths and said, how much a call cost. And, they just did it like really well. So people could actually walk through and see, get a little bit of a sense of what was happening there. And at the same time, we met with people that had been in that prison one of them was there for 7 years, because his case was just like sort of in limbo. And this was a man from, I want to say Kenya. And he had the best attitude. He was just talking about his experience there, talking about the food, for example, full of maggots and stuff. It was just like, so it was very eye-opening for me and for Miguel too, because he was just like, what? He was just like, he couldn't believe it. And he was doing it also filming a video for one of his songs. Yeah. So he was at the same time, he was kind of learning about all of this. And he would say it openly, like, I'm just like understanding what's going on. And he was as shocked as anybody. Yeah. So that's kind of how that happened. And they just do really great work. So I'm fortunate to be able to sometimes be a part of it.
That's awesome. That's amazing. You do amazing stuff, Ceci. Let's get into these questions and comments from the audience. We have some huge fans of yours. The first question is, what is one thing you picked up on during the pandemic or, in 2020 or during the pandemic? Like one thing you learned a new skill or a new view?
A skill, I didn't really have time for a skill. Like I would see friends of mine that didn't have kids and they were like, I'm learning a new language and I'm doing yoga every day.
Baking bread.
Yeah, that sort of thing. I think one thing that I did do and that I need to continue to do is meditate more. Because I feel like at one point it was getting to me emotionally. I was just like, what the hell? Like, I couldn't see an end in sight. It was just too much. So I thought meditation was going to help calm me. And so I was doing it a little bit more than I do now. Like, I feel like I need to go back to it and I just haven't. So
Same. I was doing a hardcore, like for me, 5 minutes 5 minutes Monday through Friday was my deal. Like that's what I could do. And my doctor was like, try to do it longer or more often. And I was like, I don't know. But, I was just thinking about that yesterday. I was like, I need to go back. I feel like it really helped.
Yeah, it does.
That question was from Martha Mota. Yeah, because people have to understand, especially as people of color, we were dealing with the pandemic. We were dealing with the uprisings, the injustices, the trash ass administration. I mean, they've always been trash, but a little bit extras. The election, what they were trying to do, like it was just levels upon levels upon levels. So I was like meditating, journaling. Like I was like, what can I do we're stuck in this motherfucker. What can I do? And I think that's amazing that you recognize that you want to go back to it, because we forget, right? We're like, oh, it's a pandemic, but it's not as crazy. I mean, who's to say when this comes out, we might be in another lockdown. We don't know, but you know what I'm saying? That's a good thing. I think it's helpful regardless, pandemic or not.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Okay, so next one. In her music, she seems to be so open, free, independent, and strong. How did the pandemic affect that? Like in general, women, mothers had so much on their plate. How did that impact her work, creativity, relationships, etc.? If she felt anger, rage, resentment, how did she deal with it? This is from Maria Elena Rowe.
It's interesting because I feel like I went through all of it, anger at times, frustration at times, resentment at times. But I think again, going back to meditation, I also was walking a lot. I've been walking a lot.
Nice.
Because we adopted a dog.
Oh, nice. What kind of dog?
She's a husky. She's it's a rescue, but she has energy. So I take her on long walks in the morning. And I would listen to sometimes audiobooks, sometimes like not meditation, but like talks about well-being and, and healing and all that stuff. I think that is whenever I felt like I was like going crazy, I would always go back to listening to, somebody give a talk about, inner peace or whatever it was, something to just calm me, because I feel like that was the thing that when I felt like I wasn't calm, then I felt like I had no patience for anything. And then I had the guilt, like we were talking in the beginning, that I was like, why am I complaining so much if I'm so fortunate to have all this? So it was trying to make peace with like, okay, you're allowed to not be fully happy, but I'll also recognize, how fortunate you are. And also do your part to try to help this as much as you can, which means, stay home, don't be stupid, that sort of thing. So as long as I felt like I was doing something, I felt okay.
That's awesome. A husky, we don't have a dog. We hope to someday. A husky, since I was a kid, has always been like my dream dog.
Really?
Yeah, it's always been my dream dog. So when I see them, I'm like, like the creepy person, like, hey, like cat calling the husky, because I love them so much. Do you mind me asking, what's your dog's name?
Ollie.
Cute.
Yeah, she's short for Olivia.
Oh, too cute. Love it. Love it. And I think because we couldn't go anywhere, I think a lot of us, and hopefully it doesn't stop now with the pandemic going in and out or whatever, is for you, and it sounds like for you, and especially for me, I was never an outdoorsy nature person, but I am now.
Yeah.
Like reconnecting, grounding, that stuff like that. I never understood it before. I get it now.
no, but it does give you some sort of peace. Like even if I got up early and I was like, oh shit, I have to go take her for a walk and I don't want to. Once I was out with nature and just like seeing the sun come out, that itself was just like, okay, everything's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely
that's
reconnecting with nature is one thing that happened. And I think it happened to a lot of people, which is beautiful.
Yeah. And that's why I hope, they don't remember, I mean, that they don't forget, you know what I'm saying? That what they went through, I don't want us to come out of this. I mean, I feel for us that we worked for ourselves forever. Mm-hmm. We're a certain breed and we got it already, and we still learn shit during this pandemic. But I think for everyone else that were on their hamster wheels, mm-hmm. I hope they learned something and gained something so that they don't immediately go back to the hamster wheel and forget everything.
Exactly.
That's my hope. Okay. The last question and comment from the audience, it's two-parters. What song or group made you fall in love with ska? And the second part is, ska is a precursor to reggae, and reggae is a precursor to hip hop. Ska is also heavily influenced by rhythm and blues, a precursor to rock and roll and most modern pop. How influential do you consider ska to be in the overall global music scene and industry? Do you feel it is given its proper respect by mainstream media? And this is by Rocka.
Oh my God. I was like, wow.
I was like, I'm gonna be talking to our girl Ceci. Do you want to? He goes, yeah, let me think about it. Boom. And I was like, it's a paragraph over here.
Yeah. It's like an essay. I don't think you can, well, what made me fall in love? I mean, early Bob Marley was good. Then later on, like Selector, for example, I loved her voice. And obviously the specials, all that two-tone stuff, I really, really loved. And then later on, bands that incorporated ska, like The Clash and, bands like that. But it's, I don't think it has I don't think people listen to it as much, or I mean, in the mainstream, I don't think people are necessarily mixing it so much in the mainstream, a kind of music that's in the mainstream. You don't hear about it so much. Yeah. But obviously there's underground movements, and there's, in Mexico and Latin America, like ska is pretty, very, very present. Yes. And very much loved. And also in Europe, these bands from Mexico that tour Europe and do amazingly. And they're just doing ska mixed with like some Mexican stuff. But in the mainstream, I don't hear it as much. I love it. I think it's great. And whenever I play it, whenever I listen to it randomly, I just get in a good mood automatically. But yeah, I think that's how I got to listen to ska and reggae. It was like when I first started like kind of discovering music, and I discovered, Bob Marley and all that stuff. And again, Selector, we ended up performing with them at one point, and it was
awesome.
And it was great. So yeah, I guess that.
Were you like freaking out? Like, well, this is my life right now?
It was funny because, we were all older, and it was just like hearing her perform. She was, I don't know how old she was. She was probably in her 50s or something, or maybe even more. And she was just, had the great voice that she always had. And it was just cool. It was like, oh, how funny. There's a band that I used to love.
That's awesome. I have maybe a couple episodes before yours. I have Junior Francis on, and he talks about how it is when he goes to like his crazy fans, or the best shows, the best parties, when he's a selector at a place, is when he goes to Mexico. Mm-hmm. And because it's a love, it's a genuine love that he said he hasn't seen waver at all. Yeah. Since the 80s, since he can remember, he hasn't seen. And I was like, yeah, Mexicans, hardcore. Yeah. Okay, let's get into the not so rapid fire questions, the AKA slow as hell questions. 3 words to describe yourself, Ceci.
Oof. Oh God. Patient. Let me think. Loving, I guess. And homebody.
Okay. All right.
There's probably better words that I could have said, but I can't remember.
No, that's good. What's the best piece of advice you've received?
Oof. I guess, I don't know if it's the best one, but not hold on to things and accept, things that come to you. I don't know if that makes sense, but just
that
like
makes sense.
learn to let go, and, don't be so focused on what you expected things to be.
Yeah.
And if they don't, because then you get super frustrated when they don't happen exactly how you want them to happen. So be able to let go.
Yeah. That's wisdom. That's definitely huge life advice. Listen to that, kids. Listen to that. Okay, next. What song gets you hyped? What's your hype song? I know, especially as a musician yourself and a creative and just someone that loves music, you probably have different ones. But what's like one that just pops in your head? Like, I need to get pumped. Or I'm a little nervous. What do you put on?
I think it depends. It depends on the mood. But like sometimes if I listen to like a PJ Harvey song, for example, I get like pumped. But then I can listen to a Clash song and then I get pumped. I guess it depends. Guns N' Brixton, which is like so obvious, but it's such a great song. I don't know. There's so many, but
there's some good ones. There's some good ones. Yeah. And finally, what will be your legacy, Ceci?
Oh God. See, that's a hard one. I don't know. Do you know what your legacy is going to be?
I don't know. I just hope. I think for me, thinking about it, just because I'm a magical motherfucking warrior, AKA mom, I feel like my legacy is this human, and I hope that he turns out to be okay. And then other than that, I just hope that I leave something behind and make people smile when they think of me or they see my work. They're like, ah.
Can I copy your answer? Yeah. I think definitely raising a child is like, it's an incredibly difficult but amazing job. And if I am able to teach her to be kind and empathetic, that is a huge win.
That's success.
That's definitely
totally.
Success.
That's success. Okay, Ceci. Well, thank you so much. I wanted to just say that I think you're amazing. Since you've been doing this shit for a long ass time, but out of the gate, I feel like, I think you know it, whether you will admit it or not, that I feel have touched so many people, especially, young girls that were able to see you and be like, oh, that's someone like me. And she's not doing like sippy sappy shit, poppy shit. She's being whoever she is. And I can relate to that. There's other, probably boys and girls that saw you, heard you, and felt the same way that you felt in their school, in their neighborhoods. And we're like, there it is.
That would be amazing.
So thank you for everything. I'm excited to, hopefully after the pandemic, whenever, I don't know what the fuck this is.
Nobody knows.
Hopefully to see you, and hopefully finally our humans that we have kept alive can finally meet. That would be dope. So when is the full-blown album going to be released?
So the plan is to release it in 2022. So I might release more music in the fall.
Okay.
And but I'll keep finishing the album and hopefully have it ready by the beginning of 2022. At least that's sort of the aim.
How close are you to being done?
I think I'm 80%.
80%, nice.
Yeah, it's not bad. I just need to get my shit together. It's kind of on me.
Take your time. And then you don't have to tell us who, if there are, but are there any more guest spots?
So far, no. I think Tamer might be the only one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, before we stop recording, in one of your albums, you recorded "Look Good in Leather," and that was I never told you. I don't think I told you. I might have, but I don't remember. Because I loved Cody Chestnut, and I don't know what happened to him. And when his album came out, and I heard that song, I was like, I don't know what it is. Like, I love the song. And then you come out with your album, and then I was like, she redid the song. How did that come about? Like you, I really love that album, the Cody Chestnut album. And that was 2002, Ceci. Is that true? That is. I looked it up when that song came out. Yeah. Oh my God. Wow. That's insane. So I used to love that song. And I was thinking,
I think sometimes what I do is I'll like try to do a cover at home. When I feel a little stuck, sometimes it kind of like helps to just like listen to somebody or try to play another song and see like, oh, wow. Like you just learn so much when you interpret other people's music. And so I thought I'm going to just play around with it. And I thought about doing it really slow. And so I proposed to the producer that I was working with at the time. I gave him a very simple demo and I told him what I was thinking of. And he sent over this sort of really lush track with, layers and layers and he just messed with my vocals so nicely. I thought that, yeah, that's how it happened. And we just ended up including it in the album, which was kind of like a funny thing because the whole album was, focused on something very specific. And then there was that track,
Yeah.
So it was hard to explain why it was there, but it was just basically because I love it. Yeah. I love the song.
Yeah. Great minds. Well played. I love that song. I was like, I gotta tell her that I love it. How did she get there? Because
I didn't even know.
Do we know what? I'm gonna have to do some research. Do we know what happened to Cody Chestnut?
I don't. It was funny because when I was playing with Julieta, we played a show, Austin City Limits, once, and he was performing, but that was a while. I mean, that was after that record, like not too long after. I think he was touring that record, and I was very excited. I didn't meet him. He was just there. I saw him from afar, but I'm just like I'm such a dork that I was just like, I can't, what am I going to say? So I just watched him like a freak. But yeah, that's the last I actually heard of him performing anywhere. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do some research,
yeah,
because I'm interested now, because just his style alone, like his look, his retro yet, futuristic look, like it was a lot. That's a lot to take in. And then his voice and his steez, the raspiness. Cody Chestnut, hope you're doing okay. Hope you made it through. Ceci Bastida, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time. It's so good to see your face.
So great to see your face too. And hopefully we get to see it in person.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have your kids been in a house playing video games in your space way too long? Now you can get them outdoors and still be social while social distancing at the skate side after school and group skateboarding classes. Skate students get to improve their skating and decompress after a long day or week of school. This program is awesome for beginners to get started or advanced skaters to take their skills to the next level. Go to theskateside.com and learn about our COVID-safe programs in Santa Monica, Culver City, Glendale, and South Pasadena. That's theskateside.com. The Skate Side. More kids skating.
And now, introducing
the Supernatural Bear Corner. Supernatural Bear.
Sim, who got the keys to my Vima? Who am I? Them girls, them sugar?
Boom. Shooby-doo. Yeah. There it is. Episode 38, Ceci Bastida. How dope was that? In the show notes, kids. Now Spotify has upped their game, and now in-app, the links work. Before it was like, what is all this jumbled stuff? Now the links work. So whether you're in the Apple app or in Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts, there'll be clickable links. So I always have links to try to remember anything that we discussed in the podcast. So I'll have a link to one of my favorite Tijuana No songs, Pobre de Ti, and also her current amazing single, Corre. And I'm super excited for her album, see what that sounds like when it comes out. Also, I think I'm pretty sure almost every episode in the show notes, I've always had links to whatever songs they mention as like their hype songs. And if they mention a couple, I try to do a couple. So that'll be in there too. And coming soon, I'm almost done. I made a Spotify playlist of all the special guests and their hype songs. It goes, everywhere from I think Wu-Tang Clan to Robin. Yeah. So, it was different genres too. So it's pretty good. I listened to it the other day, what I have so far. Also, I did a deep dive into Cody Chestnut. I went to his Instagram first, where one goes, and he hadn't posted for like a long ass time, like 200 and something weeks. So I was like, oh no. And then I did a deep dive, and he created one of the songs for the soundtrack of the Pixar movie Soul. So that came out in 2020, which he probably did in 2019 or so. Who's to say? So yeah, good for him. Good for him. Thanks again for all the support. Continue listening. Next month, we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary. That's exciting. And if all goes well, one of the people that asked questions and comments from the audience, Raka, he'll be a special guest. He promised. He really didn't promise me. He promised Supernatural, but still, promise is a promise. So that shall be super interesting. Anyways, thanks again, and we'll see you next time. We reap. Word to Your Mama is owned and produced by Ritz P. The intro is produced by Nico Beats. If you want to get a hold of us and see other things, all there is to know, go to wordtoyourmama.com. And as always, Word to Your Mama is brought to you by ritzyperiwinkle.com and panoplybpo.com.